Okay, we've raked in all the basalt rock, and you can see that we got the hoops on, and we found a older piece of plastic. Again, this is for just spring protection. So we found an older piece of plastic. It's got some mud on the outside, but as soon as it rains on it, it'll wash it off. It'll look really cool. We just kind of gently stretched it over most of the hoops at this point, and we're going to have to cut this and reattach an end, which would be great for you guys to see how we anchor the ends actually into the ratchets. So at this point, the next step, the back end, is hooked to the ratchet loosely, and we're going to cut this front end and attach it to the ratchet. Then we'll even the plastic out over. Right now it's a little bit more on one side than the other. We'll just even it out, and then we'll ratchet the whole plastic tight, and then we'll be at a point where we'll be able to put the actual tie downs over the individual hoops. So let's get started on fixing that end. Just wanted to show you some of the key things that we use to tie down the end. We use a U-bolt. It's about a 2.5 inch job. This one's a little old and rusty, but it'll still work. You can use any kind of cable or rope or baling twine that has high tensile strength, that you can put some tension on it and it's not going to fray or break. Zip ties, that's just to bunch things together and hold it together as we try to get it into the U-bolt. And then a stick of some kind or another. We just use some scrap fiberglass rod. It doesn't have to be this long, it only really needs to be about half that. And the whole point is, what we're going to do is we're going to bunch the excess plastic together, and then we're going to fold it over this stake and then cinch on the inside with a U-bolt. Meanwhile, the cable itself, or string or whatever, is going to be attached to the U-bolt, and this is what ends up, the ends of this get attached to the ratchet. So what you're doing is you're pulling the bolted down U-bolt towards the ratchet when you're tightening the ratchet. So let's get her done. And I don't mean Larry the Cable Guy. We kind of got it lined out, and we're going to put our first zip tie in. Sometimes it takes a couple of times to get it just right. But this is a double zip tie, but if you had a bigger one, you could use that. These were 8 inch, and so I needed a little more zip tie than I had. And then what we're doing is, the zip tie is to hold the plastic bunch together. And we try to put that first bunch, if you look at where your thing is that we're going to have at least 6 inches or maybe more. You got to remember, we're going to pull this thing tight from both ends. So the objective here would be then to put another set of zip ties bunched together, and this is where the fold is going to happen, about, probably 6 to 8 inches further down from the first. And we have to put 2 of them together here. Sure got it all figured out here. My hands are wet and muddy. That's not a good thing. So why not just use my leather one? That way I can grab the dang thing. There we go. Just pull it tight as we can. And pull the other one also tight. We got it cinched up pretty good now. This is extra over here, so we can just cut this part off. It might actually help us. But I've learned the hard way that you don't cut it off until you've got it kind of like figured out. Or if you are going to cut it off, give yourself another 6 to 8 inches. So it just depends. So I'm going to give myself another 6 to 8 inches. That's just in case I measured wrong, because I always measure once, cut wrong, and then measure again. Isn't that how it goes? So we just cut off the extra plastic using a sheet metal shears, so that's probably the right tool for the job, right? If you had a knife, that would do the same thing. It won't be exactly a clean cut, but we'll get that out of the way. And the next step is we're going to put our U-bolt on and our dead man. We'll need a zip tie for that job. So make sure that the cable that we're going to hook to the ratchet is on the inside. And then the first thing we're going to do is figure out where our dead man's going to go. And then what we want to do is fold the plastic over. And then the U-bolt, we did it right. Sometimes this is the part where it gets a little tricky because it's really got to be compressed down to get the bolt over it. I've tried using larger bolts. It makes it a little easier, but it doesn't tighten down as much, so because the plastic really compresses. So just have to get this shifted around. Okay, well, sometimes it helps to put a rock or other heavy flat surface as much as you can underneath the U-bolt, and then just apply downward pressure to get the plastic to kind of compress, so you can get the faceplate of the U-bolt on, and then we can kind of tighten it down with the bolts the rest of the way. It always helps to have the most rusty screws and bolts possible. It makes them go on just a little bit harder. I'm being facetious. That's a big word for me. Okay. Once we have this tightened down, the next step will be to put the end of the cable into the ratchet itself. So we tend to tighten this U-bolt down as far as it's going to go, because plastic, when it heats and cools, it expands and contracts. So you want this thing, even though it could be tight while you're doing it, as temperatures change it could loosen up. So you want to make certain that it's as tight as we can get it. We've attached the U-bolt and we have the dead man in. Zip tied, pigtails tied off. Now the next thing to do is to attach the actual cable into the ratchet itself. This is a very simple ratchet. All you need to do is slip the end of the cables in to it itself. Oh, it looks like I got a little bit of a frayed end here. That's okay. There we go. Sometimes it just wants to be a little stubborn. So we're going to have to kind of smooth the end out with our pliers here. Now it's just a matter of beginning the tightening process. Okay, we're not going to tighten it down all the ways, because what we're going to do right now is we're going to, as the last step, is we're going to equalize the plastic so we don't have too much on one side or not enough on the other. And then once we've got that figured out, then the next step would be to actually finish the tightening down process. We've tensioned it out pretty good. We'll probably come back and check the tension on it in a day or so, as soon as it's kind of the heat inside and outside has kind of shifted things around a little bit. But now we're going to tie down each individual hoop. And this is important because it does a couple of things for us. The first thing is it makes sure that it distributes any upward force that a wind might for some reason get under it, say when you have it vented. It will distribute that force, that lifting force will be dissipated against the actual tie rod that the hoop is against through this hold down string. And it's amazingly strong. So what we do is we come from the left side of it to the right side. We put a loop in the end of it, just a simple little tie down loop. And then this string is cut to twice, or would be approximately 20 feet, 21 feet, you give it a little extra, because the hoop itself is 10 foot. So once we have it, we'll do each individual hoop like this. We'll throw it over the other side. This is one person can do it once you have them all the strings made up. And then we just go down the other side. And let's just walk over and do a demonstration of how we tie it. We've thrown it over to the other side. What we do is we take the end with the loop in it, put it in our left hand, take the other end, and we go through the tie down loop at the base on this side, making sure we kind of even it out. I want the loop to be somewhat up to mid to 2/3 up the side, maybe a little more. And then we run the string through the loop. And this is by pulling down now, you can now equalize out the tension. And what you want is a nice deflection, meaning if you look at it, is the hoop itself is in the center between each string, and you've got a nice deflection in it. As you go down each individual hoop, and when you do this, you're going to increase the tension of the plastic. And then we just tie this off with a simple slip knot, meaning we take the string, we come behind and through and lift. Now the nice thing about this is when you want to take it off, all you got to do is pull this and it comes undone. And you can flip the string through this and flip it to the other side, and you can remove the entire plastic. Once the entire thing is tightened down, to vent the structure simply becomes a matter of lifting it up. Now as the other strings get tightened up, you can see you don't need any special hold downs or anything like that. The plastic will stay up. So once we increase the tension all the way through, the plastic simply slides up and down against the hoop itself. You can vent partially, you can vent both sides, and still everything underneath is protected from, at least the rain and the hail and all that. Since we don't have equal tension on all the hoops, it's not going to stay up very well right now, but we can show some pictures of that at the end of this video once we have it all tied down, what it looks like. So if you have any questions, do appreciate this. We're going to put, again, some finishing pictures at the end so you can see what the entire finished structure looks like. And we thank you for watching. We know we split this up into a couple of parts, so it's a little long, but we thought it was important to let people know just exactly how we're putting these things together. The total time for one person to do a bed like this, if you did it, would be, you could use a couple hours of your time. Particularly it'll go faster if the strings are pre-cut or the hoops and everything are bent and everything's ready to go. So it's just a matter of how prepared you are ahead of time. The actual construction doesn't take that long, whether it's 65 feet or 100. So thanks for watching, and Be sure, if you like this video, hit the subscribe button. Look for our logo in the corner. It could be in the left or the right. If you feel that this is good information and maybe you want to help us get some better equipment, and sometimes it helps getting better sound equipment so we don't hear planes in the distance, feel free to hit our support page and take a look at that. Also too, there could be a link to another video. We try to put links that are complementary videos to this, so we thank you for watching and have a good day. Thank you.